future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Judy of Dr. Judy WTF here, and we're heading into the holiday season, and we're exactly heading into the Thanksgiving dinner episode, and so I thought I'd do a show tonight on Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving feuding and stuffing, because there's more than just stuffing, there's stuffing your feelings. And with all the shows that we've been doing about negative core beliefs and triggers and systems gone wrong and family alienation and triangulation, I think that a nice way to frame this particular episode is to incorporate a lot of the concepts that I talk about and have it all take place over Thanksgiving dinner. So this is a call-in show, everybody, so please do call in. The number is 323-843-2826. The concept that we're heading into in the new format of the show is that we are going global. We are going deeper, and we're going cross-cultural. And so the intention of the show is to really look at human disconnect and how that leaves us with a hole in the soul. And in order to create a pathway to healing, I want to introduce to you, if you haven't already seen it, the mindmap system for healing human disconnect. And let me know when that mind map is up. Thank you so much. The mind map is really a pathway to healing. So whenever a problem occurs, we need a guidance to a solution, or at least a pathway to heal the disconnect. So the mind map is a pathway that I created back in 2001 when I was very interested in healing global disconnect, and I took a turn to healing human disconnect so that eventually through healing human disconnect we can heal global disconnect. And so if you look at the mind map, you can see that the top third of the mind map includes wounds, reactions, and encoding. And that represents your past, your wounds of childhood, which there are 5 of. There is emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, neglect, and smothering. Those cover the 5 types of abuse. And then there is the reaction to the wound, which is the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is very reactive, very emotional, doesn't really have a lot of connection with cognition and logic and dialing it down. And then we've got panel 3, which is where we encode a lot of information, and information about how we are viewing ourselves in the world and how the world views us. And all of this information, whether it be pre-verbal at the amygdala level or verbal at the cognitive level, all comes from the blueprint, meaning the way that we were treated in the first few years of life, meaning the way we were blueprinted by our caregivers, usually mom and dad. And what happens is that whenever there is a disconnect, a mother-infant disconnect, a father-infant disconnect, a family disconnect, we're going to feel the pain. And obviously, Thanksgiving dinner is one just big happy, trigger-happy occasion for some to really activate a lot of negative core beliefs that then bring us into panels number 4, 5, 6, chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And why I call the show Dr. Judy WTF with the Freud is really a tribute to Freud's repetition principle, because Freud talked about how when we don't complete the psychological files from the past, what happens is they get re-triggered. And unfortunately, when they get re-triggered, they don't necessarily get completed and filed away. They get activated and then reactivated, and we start living this crazy repetition principle of panel 456. And in order to morph out of all of this mess, we have to do some therapeutic reprocessing and work, which we do at the Psychological Healing Center. And my team does a lot of the work with me. And we then help people to process the feelings and reset boundaries, reboot the system, so to speak, so that we can then get out of panel 456 and end up in panel 789. So let's talk about Thanksgiving dinner and what it represents. So we all have ideals about what family means. And even though many people who have called in and many of the shows that you've listened to have to do with a lot of flying monkeys and triangulation and low contact and no contact, I think that we as human beings still want very deeply to have a sense of family. And so when we walk into that Thanksgiving dinner, we are taking some risks, because there may be some people at the table that you have some form of human disconnect with. And so this becomes this cauldron of triggers. So maybe you're sitting next to a cousin of yours who has a different political view and voted for a different candidate. Or maybe you're sitting next to your mother who triggers the heck out of you because she talks over you or ignores you or makes you feel less than. Or maybe you're sitting next to your brother who's been a flying monkey, messengering and reverberating your father's message that you're kind of stupid. And so this becomes a really horrible, potentially horrible, breeding ground for narcissistic injury. And again, this is a call-in show, folks, so please do call in, 323-843-2826. And I think we have a call-in. You are on the couch with your emotional ouch with Dr. Judy. Who's this, please?
Hi, Dr. Judy. It's Susan, your neighbor from the north, calling again.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm unable to watch your show live, so I just thought I'd call in if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know the topic? Are you aware of the topic?
Yes,
okay.
And I initially wasn't going to call because I'm not American, and I know it's your Thanksgiving, but I have flown over the last 2 years to the States to celebrate with the last remaining living relative of my father's.
Okay.
And she would always come up to celebrate our Canadian Thanksgiving.
Right.
So it was really hard this year that it didn't take place.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured, you know what, I'm going to just follow my instincts and call in.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And being an ex-Canadian from Montreal, Canada, and you're from Toronto?
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto.
Yes, that's
okay.
Right.
And so I remember, I believe Canadian Thanksgiving falls in October, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But it's the same theme. It doesn't matter, right? It's this family dinner that people are hoping will be something worthy and worthwhile and filled with happiness and communication and goodwill. And sometimes it goes that way, and sometimes it doesn't go that way. So tell me how your Thanksgivings have been going as of late.
Yes, I know. So, your choice of words about stuffed, because you think about stuffing, which is always with Thanksgiving dinner,
right.
A lot of the times inside of the turkey, but then we feel stuffed from the food, and I forget, what is that? There's something released from a turkey that makes you feel sleepy afterwards, don't
Yeah,
you?
yep. The L-tryptophan. L-tryptophan.
Right, there you go. So, but the other is that the whole business of stuffing your feelings down, I know very well. And in fact, when you're talking about feuds and so on, my family was stellar at staging quite a few things on celebrations and also boycotting things. Like, for example, my sister wouldn't show up to our Thanksgiving 3 years ago when my father was in my mom and father were both in hospital, and my aunt flew over, and it was a sort of a impromptu sort of visit, and my sister refused to come, just to, again, show that whole divided front of my mom and my sister banding against my dad and I, and now my aunt was part of it. And my aunt has kind of been a surrogate mom to me.
Okay.
I almost feel so orphaned since my father died, even though I know I have a mom and a sister. It's been absolute hell since my father passed. And so what I find is that I'm still being forced to, stuff everything down and not given the forum to ever speak my truth or my feelings with my mother and my sister. And it's just becoming like, if it weren't for your show, I don't know how I'd be getting through this time right now, because I won't be seeing my aunt this American Thanksgiving.
You won't be? You won't be?
I won't.
Okay.
No, she's flying to Austria. She has to tend to some family matters, so that makes me sad. And she knows of what's going on now with the feud with my family, and she's, very concerned about me. And the other is that I know in one of your shows you talk about keeping secrets, and I've kept a secret from her since I was a little child. And I think I talked to you about it already, and I just don't know when the appropriate time is to tell her. And that's, again, the whole stuffing theme and the feud that's been going on, how it's all linked, and that our Thanksgivings were rarely about expressing thanks and appreciation and being happy in each other's company. It was always so tense and stressful, you know? So I've often had the best Thanksgivings away from my family. Sad enough to say.
And there's that ideal, right? You have this optimistic feeling that maybe things are going to be different, maybe things have changed, but we don't change unless we do the work. Have you noticed that the same themes come up over and over again? So what you're talking about is a lot of family system alignment. So it seems like your mother and your sister are aligned, right? And your father was kind of the balancing system in some sense, and now he's gone, so that throws the whole system off, correct?
100%.
And then your aunt and you are aligned, and so being that the mind map is a system, the essence of it is to think in terms of the system. And so when one family member dies, then the whole thing shifts, doesn't it? And so stresses and strains are put on other family members. And so in this case, thank goodness that you have your aunt, because she's sort of like an enlightened witness to you, is she not?
Oh, I agree. Yes,
right.
She has been.
Right. And so we need that for our sanity. So when we're sitting in crazy, let's say we're sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner and we're sitting in this crazy, repressed atmosphere. Some of us are obviously fortunate enough to be enjoying family. So this is not across board, but for those of you who are there sitting or planning to sit at the meal and you know that you have to stuff your feelings down, understand that, number one, Thanksgiving is not a great time to bring up sensitive topics, right? Because, first of all, people may be having a little bit too much to drink. And what do we know about alcohol?
Oh, yes, right. I mean, it just is a terrible revealer of truths truth serum, I guess.
Correct.
You can call it.
Right. It's the
Yeah.
truth serum. So you don't want truths flying that aren't not going to be mitigated by what I call peaceful healing dialogue, which I'm holding in my hands so that I could teach people the peaceful healing dialogue and give them a flying snowball's chance in hell to live through Thanksgiving dinner. And so in your case, so tell me again, so you are not going to be sitting at a Thanksgiving dinner this
No,
season?
I had contemplated flying to the States, but my aunt suddenly had to fly to Austria, so she usually holds the dinners. But
Yeah.
my cousins will be celebrating on their own, and I just, I'm not in a position right now where I can actually just take off on a moment's notice.
So you won't be
'Cause
there.
I'd love to go to Austria. What's sad is she would always fly via Toronto and stay with us and then go to Austria. So that whole part of our lives, is now also over. It's just a lot of grief.
Yeah.
For me right now, like grieving a lot of things, especially with a lot of anniversaries that will be coming up. But the other thing I was going to say about my aunt is two Canadian Christmases ago when she was here, my mother, without letting my aunt know, because my mother, just so you know, she's from Germany, Berlin. My father's from Austria, Vienna, went through the war.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always been this very tense, I don't want to call it rivalry, but it's very uncomfortable to be in their presence at times. And so my mom went ahead and invited her sister and her husband to our Thanksgiving dinner and my cousins without letting my aunt know in advance.
Okay.
And just threw it on her on the morning of. And my aunt is a very quiet, calm, private person and loves family and wanted to be with my father. And when my mother's side is there, it's all about everybody else and anything but about Thanksgiving or any celebration.
So was she quiet about it?
So yes. Well, she just spoke to me, yeah. But the two of us kind of like just congregated next to my dad on both sides, and it was just like, the three of us. And the irony is that my mother's sister would go down to see her and stay in her guest house and took advantage. So my aunt no longer welcomed her, and she always would overstay her welcome. So it was very awkward because my aunt hadn't seen her in such a long time.
So look, what you're illustrating for those of you listening, can you hear all the triangulation? Can you hear all the alliances? And thank you. I'm illustrating through your family dynamics. What goes on here is that one is uncomfortable, and they bring with them another skin, so to speak, their support system. And then the support system is thrown into the system, and then that support system takes attention from the entire meal. So just a little bit more about that. So for those of you listening, how do you deal with all of this? Okay, so number one, you can't allow for Thanksgiving or the holiday dinner to be the breeding ground, right, or the expression ground for very heavy subjects. You've got to keep it light. Now, if you have issues, then you have to do it at another time. It's just not going to work out because people are drinking, people are eating, people are getting high on their sugar, their alcohol, smoking, whatever it is that they're doing. And so what's not happening is that they're not in their cognition. They're more in their primitive brain, their amygdala, the pleasure principle. And so it makes sense, right, that people would stuff their feelings because some of these feelings are not very nice. So Susan, be aware that the whole dynamics of your family has absolutely shifted as a result of your father, and now that your mother and your sister are more aligned, then you're going to feel a little bit more of that family alienation. So it makes sense that you'd want to hang out with your aunt more. I'm just going to continue along the theme of triangulation. Thank you so much for calling in. And just
okay. Well, thank you so much as well for taking my call.
Yeah,
and I
of
want to
course.
Wish you the rest of the viewers and Americans happy Thanksgiving as well.
Yes, and just don't forget that that just because you decide that you're going to dial it down and not be as expressive as you wish you could be, that you're doing the wrong thing. I think that you have to kind of know when you're going to speak and when you're not going to speak. And sometimes you have to just reserve these heavy-duty conversations for another time, not on Thanksgiving, not Christmas.
I know how to do. Sorry,
Yeah.
You were cutting out there. I thought I could speak, interject for a sec. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I wasn't planning on bringing up this family secret I've kept from my aunt for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and sister swore that I never tell my dad, my grandmother, or her. So it's festering. But I'm used to the superficiality. I mean, my family is like, if you could look up in the dictionary the word phony or fake, like they're experts at it. So, I mean, I can do that, but I just choose to lead a more authentic life and not spend my holidays with them whenever I can.
Okay, well, number one, put yourself number one. And I really appreciate you calling in. I'm going to talk a little bit about the peaceful healing dialogue and getting the timing right. And thank you again, Susan, and keep communicating with me. I really appreciate it.
I will. You take good care.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Goodbye for now. And so what do you do with all of these triggers? So we've got this whole dinner table full of people who are activating each other, and let's just see what's set on the table. You know, you look at the table, and remember Woody Allen movies where everything was just kind of polite on the surface, and then he had this bubble of truth above his head. So you're sitting there and you're smiling, stuffing your feelings, and you're thinking to yourself, gee, I wonder if they notice that I've gained 10 pounds, or, whoa, my uncle sure looks a lot older than he did last year. And you're thinking to yourself, do they really know how much I hate them? And, you know, these are those horrible feelings that mull around in people's minds. And so these are the feelings that are going to pop up. And the triggers that are going to be activated are these negative core beliefs like, am I good enough? Am I lovable? Does my mother think that my brother's smarter than I am? Is my sister prettier than I am? So these core beliefs are really going to be running rampant in people's minds at the dinner table. So what do you do with them? Well, you don't start spewing them out, obviously, because it's just not a time and place for you to do that. And so on some level, you have to stuff your feelings. And on another level, you can also do something a little bit different, which I'm inviting you to do, which is to acknowledge your feelings and to acknowledge the hurt and the pain that may be activated in you, because it's also an opportunity to see that these triggers are old, unhealed core beliefs that were never addressed. So if you're sitting at that dinner table wondering if you're lovable or wondering if you're smart enough or thinking that you're too fat or something negative, demeaning, devaluing, and destroying yourself, or maybe others, then it's an opportunity for you to start thinking like a shrink, which is what I teach people to do, and to go to the cause of this, which is always the blueprint, and to think about where these prototypes came from. Who taught you to think that way? Who taught you to feel that way about yourself? I think we have another caller. So, hello, you're on the couch with Dr. Judy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And what is your name?
My name is Cassandra, and I'm from Virginia.
Nice to meet you, Cassandra. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you live and in person, kind of.
Kind of.
So I've been listening to you for about maybe 7 months.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And it's been so refreshing.
Thank
I was
you.
telling someone that you're my unofficial teletherapist because I've gotten so much information and just how a lot of what I've gone through you've been able to articulate, and your callers have been able to like really put into words some of the things I've experienced.
Yes.
So I'll just give you a brief history.
Sure.
I probably about 4 years ago, I realized that my mother was severely narcissistic.
Okay.
And it's been a cycle of just trying to figure out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I, would just see things, and there was a time when I thought I was going to go no contact with my narcissistic mom, my enabling father,
Okay.
and that was for maybe a few months.
Mm-hmm.
But then we kind of came back together, and it was just like, we're not really going to address things. We're just going to kind of sweep them under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had learned for several years, just seeing when conflict would arise, this is how things were handled.
The sweeping under the rug method, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't talk about it. Let's just smile.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that the more that happened, the more I wasn't able to really confront anything. So it was like, well, if something comes up, I can never address it, especially if it meant telling my mom that she was wrong.
And after a while, right, that rug gets really thick. So if we handle
Exactly.
things one by one as they come up, it's a lot easier. But if you then let it, you let it out all in one bunch, right, then literally
Exactly.
you're coughing dust balls and hairballs all over the place, literally, metaphorically speaking. So I just want to define what I mean by narcissism so that you and the listeners are on the same page. And what I mean by that, and there's the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Narcissism has to do with lack of empathy. It has to do with demeaning and devaluing and destroying other people, and really not having the capacity to put anybody as number one but themselves. And so in the case of the narcissistic mother, it's really a system gone wrong. More than it is a label, it's where the flow gets reversed because, as you know, Cassandra, your mother's supposed to be the one that nurtures you, right? She's the one supposedly putting you number one, regulating your feelings from infancy, giving you the breastfeeding, hopefully eye contact, emotional nourishment, and so on. And in the case of the parent that can't do that, what happens is that their hole in the soul, which was not healed because of their parents, and you could see multi-generationally, okay? And then they're running on empty, and then they're using their children to fill their own hole in the soul. And so now instead of the children being given to, they're being taken from. And so you end up taking care of your mother's feelings. You end up walking on eggshells. You end up esteeming them. You end up pleasing them, people pleasing. And wow, we've done a lot of episodes on people pleasing. So it's all there. And I'm sure you've heard some of them. Yes? Right. Okay, so this is what I mean by narcissistic mothers and parents. So are you with me on that? You understand the concept? Yes? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what's currently coming up in your life that has you maybe a little bit worried about sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner with everybody?
So the good thing is that I have gone no contact for I would say it's coming up on a year. And over that time, my brother, who's my older brother, we've both realized that there's been a lot of triangulation happening where at one point he was the golden child, and then it would shift where I was the scapegoat, and vice versa. Those roles would shift as, mother deemed either of us worthy at the time. But he lives in another state, and so distance physically has kind of kept us from being able to talk. But recently we've had an opportunity to reconnect, and the good thing is that we really had a breakthrough conversation where we realized that we can still have a relationship apart from our mom, and we can get to know each other. And I remember, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a caller that kind of shared the same thing, how she and her brother were able to begin a relationship apart from just the fact that they're siblings, that they could really get to know each other and heal together. But sadly, because of the no contact, I've had to distance myself from other family members just because I don't know where they stand, and I'm really not in a place to want to answer a lot of questions.
Sure.
So for the holidays, you know, my family and I were just going to kind of hang out ourselves, but we won't be, and we haven't for a while, just to protect my immediate family, my children, my husband.
Okay.
We just keep a really, you know, safe distance. A lot of people still don't know what's going on, but again, I don't know who knows what or who's been told what. So those are the things that, you know, when the holidays come up, this will be the first holiday where there's been the official no contact, where, you know.
No, I just wanted to say that you have every right to put yourself first, especially after you've had years of not being put number one, right? And now that you're getting education, you understand that the reason that there's been this rift between you and your brother is because, as I've said in many episodes, the parents set up the system gone wrong. And as a result, they create a rift between brother, sister, brother, to the point where the alliances are often between the sibling and the parent. And so it's very, very hard for people to break that bond with the parent. So sometimes they'll go against the sibling, right, to maintain the bond, and then the sibling doesn't understand, well, why are they being so disloyal to me? It's because they can't stand the idea of being attacked for being loyal to you, because they might be, right? And so it's a very ugly situation. But in your case, it sounds like you've taken the stance of wanting to be with your husband and yourself. And how many children do you have?
6, almost 7.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so isn't it important to put everybody number one? And if you're right, it's crucial. And so unfortunately, if our parents can't add light to our occasions, if they're constantly taking from us, then we have to set our boundaries. And if you would be so kind as to put up panel number 7, because I want to make a point about this. Panel number 7 of the mind map is a metaphor for synergy. It's a metaphor for paradigm shift and interconnection. And panel number 7 can also be a metaphor for vampiring and bleeding out. Okay, so for the people pleasers out there, codependents, if you keep giving, and you're giving to a taker, well, you're going to be nice and depleted. And at the end of the day, right, I had somebody that I was working with today, and her mother taught her that she has to be nice at all costs. And just today she was talking about how tired she is. And I told her that investing your emotions is like, it's an investment, right? If you invest your emotions in another human being, you know, you're smart to invest in a giver and somebody who's going to be giving light back to you. And so I congratulate you, Cassandra, that you've decided that you're only going to invest in the givers, invest in people who are going to create synergy with you. And so this Thanksgiving, I hope everyone can start to think like a shrink. And even if you have to sit next to, you know, your mother or your father or your sibling that you don't feel is giving you a lot of light, at least you can understand that you're not going to over-give to them, you're not going to over-compliment them, that you're not going to over-expect from them. That's very important. Lower your expectations from people who don't have the emotional goodies to give to you, right?
Right.
Okay, so you're going to have your Thanksgiving dinner in Virginia? Yeah?
Yes.
What city?
So we're right outside of Richmond.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. And so hopefully this will be a time where you're going to enjoy the stuffing and not stuffing your feelings, right? And you won't have a lot of bones to pick with people, right?
Right.
Right? And you can actually ingest and digest and manifest the light and goodness and sharing and celebration of your beautiful 6 children, soon to be 7.
Yes.
When are you having the baby?
The spring.
Okay, beautiful. And so how lucky for you. Some people don't have a wonderful past, but somehow they work very hard to be the cause, which is the name of my book. And for those of you who don't have a copy, I think it's a wonderful way for you to connect all the dots that I've been talking about and learn how to think like a shrink. And you can get it through my website, drjudywtf.com and amazon.com. And it's a pretty thorough read. It addresses all the panels and the cause and how we encode our problems and how we have to decode and take out the psychological poison, if you will, and then recode into health. And for those of you that are wanting to take this journey, you know that I have a beautiful team of people who do mind map therapy, and just contact me, leave us your email, and we'll send you info and give you free consultations. And the point of all of this is that just because you were not the cause of the outcome of part 1 of our lives, because our parents were the cause of that, and I don't say fault, right. Multi-generational, right? Mm-hmm. It still means that you can be the cause of a better outcome to part 2 of your life, which is what you're doing. Yeah. So any other thoughts or questions in mind?
No, I think that's it. I'm just really, glad to hear your show and listen to it and have an opportunity to talk with you, and just hopefully, someone has been encouraged by my story that it is possible. It hasn't been easy, but it definitely is possible with support.
Yes.
Which I'm grateful for.
Yes.
Friends that have come alongside me through this journey. And it is possible. So I just wanted to share that with your listeners, that, as difficult as it is, there is hope. Yeah.
I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for calling in.
You're very welcome.
And thanks for being a listener, and keep in touch.
Yes, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, so I think you're all getting the drift that during this delicate time of year, it's very difficult to have always the wherewithal to hold your tongue. And I'm saying to all of you, don't stuff your feelings, but know when is appropriate to say them. And I want to quickly go through the Peaceful Healing Dialogue. If you write to me, I'll give you a copy of it. You can also find it on my website, drjudywtf.com, under the forms section. And so the Peaceful Healing Dialogue is a way of keeping the peace in the family. So here are some of the principles of the Peaceful Healing Dialogue. To be respectful of each other, to be truthful with each other, to self-reflect, meaning to take responsibility for your own part in things, to give people honest feedback without hurting their feelings, to be solution-oriented, to come from the consciousness of staying connected and interconnected, to address the issues, but then again, not at the delicate time when everybody's drinking and eating and so on, and feelings are flying high, to always extend a bridge back, because most of the time we're going to disconnect from each other. We do it all the time. We pick up the cell phone, we say something a little bit off or very off. It's not that we're not going to disconnect, it's that how are we going to reconnect so that we can continue the flow of the relationship? And then some other principles of the Peaceful Healing Dialogue include being ethical, transparent, being vulnerable, and very important, giving yourself the permission to say no to people. I think we have another caller, so I think I'll take that caller. Go ahead, please. You're on the couch.
Oh, that's great. Hi, I'm Lisa from Chicago.
Hi, Lisa. Very nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank
you. I'm such a fan.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, but just a little background on me. Like, I wrote this down so I can get all my thoughts out.
Sure.
Okay, I'm 23, and
Okay.
I just realized that my mom is like a narcissist, thanks to your show. I feel like I really had my life together about a month ago when I was still in college, but I finally graduated. I have a great boyfriend, but my mom is not pleased with that.
Okay.
I get verbally put down, and probably the worst thing that's happened currently is that she deep searches my room, and then she uses things against me that she finds.
Oh, wow. That's nasty.
Yeah,
And you're living at home?
yeah, I'm still
Okay.
living at home.
Do you have to?
Right now, I just got a job. I'm working my way out, so so far I'm really proud of myself.
Yes. Yeah, and you're 23, and I know that it's really hard to pay for rent and electrical bills and so on and so forth. And okay, so you're realizing that this is not okay, which is
Yeah.
a great thing that you're realizing. On the other hand, you're kind of in a hostage situation, right? Because you're beholden
Yes.
to your mother. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and ask away. Yeah.
But yeah, also like she never like made me get a job either, so that's like the worst part. I don't have much life skills and or anything like that. But on the topic of holidays,
Yes.
my mom's side of the family is like a narcissistic dynamic, I've realized, where my mom is the scapegoat and her brothers are the golden children. So I'm kind of grouped in with my mom. So when I'm at the dinner table, no one talks to me. And in particular, last Christmas, for no reason, I was verbally put down, and then I was kicked out of the house.
Wow. And who did that to you?
My uncle, so her brother, one of the biggest golden childs in that family.
That's very painful.
He does no wrong, but
Yeah.
he was an alcoholic, but he does no wrong, in their eyes.
And was he drinking when he was putting you down?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
of course. I figured so because, the disinhibitor, right? And so words
Yeah.
fly when you're drunk, and you're the unhappy recipient of all of these projections, okay? So there's a psychological term for you. When people don't feel well, what they do is they vomit all over other people just so they can release their feelings, and then you're covered with the filth of those feelings. It doesn't feel very nice at all. And so what you can,
No.
right. So, but what you can learn about that is, number one, it's not your fault, right? And number two, what you can also learn about that is your negative core belief, because these are the people who trigger your negative core beliefs best of all. So you'll be feeling that ouch, that emotional ouch, like, oh, I guess I might be stupid, or I might not be this or that. And so when you discover kind of sort of what that is, you can begin to take that information in and do some work around it, because ultimately you can't trigger somebody that doesn't have that lever that's trigger happy, right? So let's say you don't think that you're not lovable. If I say to you, you're a very unlovable person, it's not going to really trigger you because you don't feel that way. But if I say something to you that you feel that way about yourself, then boom, it's just going to throw you into panel number 4, 5, 6. So see how that works? So you can use the Thanksgiving dinner, all of you, as a reveal of what your negative core beliefs are. And then you can jot those down after dinner and say, wow, I didn't know that I felt these things about myself. Then you can go deeper and into the work. So these people are kind of very useful in a way, not pleasant, but useful. Okay, so here's how it sounds like it's going. Your mother's the scapegoat, and so she doesn't feel really good about herself, correct?
No, she does not.
So guess who she trickles it down to?
Me.
There we go. Okay.
What's even funnier is, all I want is an apology, and she mentioned it to them, and everyone knows this happened. I was kicked out publicly in front of the whole family. They pretended like nothing happened.
Sure. And there's
They're like,
that.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's completely blanked out.
Well, they don't want to know what they're talking about because, first of all, they may not even be that conscious of their effect on other people, which is a lot of times the case. And maybe they don't really want to know their effects because they want to have the privilege, I'm being very sarcastic, of course, of continuing this bad behavior of projecting all over you. So what do you do about this is, first of all, you psychoeducate yourself just like you're doing, right? You're learning how to think like a shrink, and you can see that these people are not well and they're unwell, then projects onto you. And so that you can start to understand better boundaries. You can start to understand how to keep away from people like this eventually. And so I think your pathway to healing is you're young, you're going to get educated, you're going to make more and more money. I hope you have a wonderful boyfriend. Do you? Is he a good guy?
Yes, I do. That's the only reason I'm looking forward to something, because I can move out straight to him whenever I need help.
Okay, so beautiful. So you have an enlightened witness, so someone who can stand by your side and say, you're not crazy. This is a crazy situation. And that's very healing, is when you can step outside the system, right? And look in and realize that it's not your fault. You're in the middle of it. And as soon as you can get out of this system, you will. Okay, so any other thoughts or questions that you have in mind? I know we're kind of running out of time here, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, one little question. Do you think in this situation, it's a lot worse than I make it sound? That is just one anecdote, but that's been my whole life, and I'm really depressed, and I've never known why, and I finally figured it out, and I'm so happy that you exist.
Oh, but, that's so nice of you to say so. Thank you. It means a lot to me to hear that. Really appreciate it.
Do you think I should consider no contact from what you've just heard?
I think that you can try very limited contact, because sometimes people can't stand no contact. It's too much on their system. Just birthdays, anniversaries, talking about the weather kind of thing. And then if you must, then you must. And you have to put yourself number one. Okay, it's time. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate it. And so I think we have a few more minutes, correct? Yes? Okay, so we have another call in? No? Okay, we have a few more minutes. So I'm going to do something that I always do called Shrink That Tune. And I'm going to mind map Dolly Parton's lyrics to the song Family. And why did I pick this song? Obviously, because Thanksgiving is a time for family. So she writes, when it's family, you forgive them, for they know not what they do. When it's family, you accept them because you have no choice but to. When it's family, they're a mirror of the worst and best in you, and they always put you to the test, and you always try to do your best, and just pray for God to do the rest when it's family. So this is an ideal situation where Dolly Parton obviously cares very much about her family. And so sometimes you do have to put yourself before your family, because if you keep idealizing your family at your own expense, that's not going to be very healthy. And sure, we can forgive people, but my idea of forgiveness is to do the work and change the behavior, morph out of the behavior. Some are preachers, some are gay, some are addicts, drunks, and strays, but not a one is turned away when it's family. Some are lucky, others ain't. Some are fighters, others faint. Winners, losers, sinners, saints, it's all family. So yes, we try to hold it together and be more accepting of our family, but at the end of the day, if they're violating us, we still have to protect ourselves and put the boundaries. And when it's family, you trust them and your heart's an open door. When it's family, you tolerate what you kill others for. When it's family, you love and hate and take, then give some more. Somehow you justify mistakes to try to find some better way to solve the problems day to day in the family. So sure, maybe you're a little bit more tolerant, but at a certain point, you've got to find that boundary where it hurts you and just say, family or not family, if you're hurting me, come on. It's got to stop there. You take the trouble as it comes and love them more than anyone. good or bad or indifferent, it's still family. You choose your lovers, you pick your friends, not the family that you're in. Nah, they'll be with you till the end because it's family. Well, sometimes not. Sometimes people who hurt you too deeply, you just have to hold it at arm's length, and some people have to literally go no contact. And when it's family, you forgive them, for they know not what they do. When it's family, it's best in you. Where it's family, let me be all that I should be to the family. So I think this is a very beautiful, idealistic song. And again, for those of you who are too hurt by your family, too abused by your family, it's okay for you to put yourself before your family. And it's okay for you to say, if somebody doesn't treat me appropriately with respect and kindness, maybe they're not going to be in my inner circle. So with that said, I want to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And please do know that you can call in or write to me and go on my website, drjudywtf.com. And if you haven't already done so, buy the book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Good night, everybody.